संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. Namaskar to all of you. We shall begin chanting the meditation verses of Bhagavad Gita. Since all of you have practiced the chanting, you can chant with me. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitham Puranamunina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshinim. Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullaravindayata Patranetra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Gnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totravetraikapanaye Gnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamrutaduhe Namaha. Sarvopanishado gavo dogdha gopalanandanaha partho vatsa sutihi bhokta dugdham gitamrutam mahat Vasudeva sutam devam kamsachanuramardhanam Devaki paramanandam Krishnam vande jagadgurum Bhishma Dronatata Jayadratha Jala Gandharanilotpala Shalyagrahavati Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhanavartini Sotirna Khalu Pandavairanadi Kaivartakah Keshavaha Parasharya Vachas Sarojamamalam Gitartagandhotkhatam नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम् लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः. In the last session, we were describing about attachment, that is, the important aspect of this transmigratory existence, samsara, where that is one of the greatest diseases, and the whole of Bhagavad Gita is a remedy for all of that thing. In that, I took you through the worldly type of attachment in our families. Later on, I took up the story of Bharata, Jada Bharata. It's a very popular story. And we were halfway, but because of the time, we had to stop it in the half, where we were trying to understand the different expression of attachment at a very high level, that is the spiritual level. This King Bharata, though he had lot of luxuries, affluence, kingdom, ministers, queens, everything, in a young age, he gave up everything and went to the forest for realizing God. Then we all went through the story of how he got attached to that small deer. And then while he was on the time of death, he was thinking about this deer and he passed away. So consequently, in the next life, this King Bharata entered the body of a deer. Now, I also took you through one of the Bhagavad Gita statement where Lord Krishna explains whatever we think at the time of death, then we get the birth exactly like that in our next life. I just told you the meaning there, but it is in the 8th chapter, 6th verse, where Lord Krishna is telling, Yam Yam Vapi smaran bhavam tyajantyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tad bhavam tad bhava bhavitaha. What is the meaning? Lord Krishna is telling to Arjuna, O son of Kunti Arjuna, whatever object a person, object or person or anybody, a man or a woman thinks of at the time of death, having been absorbed in its thought all through, he attains to that object alone. That is the simple meaning of this wonderful verse. See, you have to note the meaning of this verse, whereby having been, Lord Krishna is telling to us, having been absorbed in its thought all through. You know, many of the people, they tell, why should we think of God? Why should we have spiritual thoughts? Now let us enjoy this life. When we lose our eyesight, when we lose all our tooth, when we, what you call, incapable, then we can't go here and there to enjoy. Then let us start thinking of God. So that is the argument of many people, but that will not happen. Whatever you have been thinking all through your life, that is the only thought which comes during the time of death. Nothing special can come during the time of death. That's why, see, the term used here by Lord Krishna is whatever object or person we think of at the time of death. Why? Having been absorbed in its thought all through our life. So a person now is on the deathbed, 99.9 years, about to get 100 century. But he is now on the deathbed, very miserly, stingy. In Hindi they call kanjus, is it? So always worldly. So now this person, all the children have gathered, they are wanting to make this father to chant the name of Lord. At least at the time of death, he should take the name of Lord so that he may get mukti. Always he was thinking of the house, the property, and saving the money, that and this. No, at least let him take the name of God. They're trying now. Closed his mouth. I'm not going to chant the name of Hari or God. Then the children asked, Father, why? Why are you not chanting the name of Lord Hari? Well, if I chant, then I will die. I don't want to die. He wants to still live 99.99 years, just a few little fuel is left in his this thing. Then the doctors came, examined, all the parameters are gone. He will survive only for maybe half a day, 6 hours or something. So fulfill all his desires. They told fulfill his desires. So all the children, daughters and son, they came. Wife also came with great difficulty and asked him, the doctor has told that now you have only 6 hours or so. So if you have any desire to eat something or to see somebody, you tell, we will fulfill your desire, last desire. What is your desire? You know, what was the desire? He told, it will change the doctor. Because he wants to still live. He doesn't want to die. So at the last time, name of the God will not come until unless you have practiced it all through your life. So don't make the mistake of telling that, let me think of God in the end, or a thought, all the thoughts in the end of my life. It will not happen. Now in the next verse, it is the 7th verse. Now after telling this, see, now you will become afraid. Lord Krishna himself is told, O son of Kunti, whatever object a person thinks of at the time of death, having been absorbed in its thought all through, he attains to that object alone. And Jadabharata was thinking of the deer and it became the deer. And also, you might have heard one book written by one American pastor. I've forgotten his name, maybe Dale Carnegie or something. He has written a book called Many Mansions. Anybody knows that? Many Mansion? What is the author? Okay, let us not worry about that. Let us come to the, yeah, Casey. Edgar Casey, you are right. Edgar Casey. He was a Protestant pastor, Christian Protestant pastor. But when he used to go to trance, then anybody there who would come to him for asking some solutions to the problem used to go on narrating in the trance what happened to him, why did he get that problem, what was he in the last life, in which life he committed something, and because of that, what is he now undergoing, whether difficulty or good thing. So all that recordings when in the trance has been recorded and put into the form of book that's called Many Mansions, Edgar Casey. So in that we get things of past life, that life, this life. So you can go there and see all this, what Lord Krishna has told here, whatever you think of at the time of death, whatever you've been done, you have been doing, you will be getting in the next life. Next life will be born so and so. Now, so many such incidences are there where he mentions Edgar Casey. Now, you may get afraid. What is this? All these things Lord Krishna is telling, that if we think of something, we become like that Jadabharata became a deer and somebody else becomes something. So we get afraid. No, then Krishna in the next verse is telling, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha Mai Arpita Manobuddhihi Mamevaishyasi Asamshayaha Mam Mai Arpita Manobuddhihi Mam Eva Aishyasi Asamshayaha. What is the meaning of this 7th verse where Krishna is telling in this 8th chapter? Therefore, so don't be afraid, Arjuna. Therefore, fight. Here, Arjuna was a fighter, so he's telling fight the battle. But for all of us, what is the message of Krishna? Do your work, your duties. Go on doing your duties, looking after your father, mother, wife, husband, children, all the work, relatives, all the work, earning money, everything. Do only your duty. Your fight means for Arjuna, it is his duty. For all of us, our duty. So, therefore, fight. How? Remembering God always. While working, while doing anything, sleeping, walking, remember God always. What is he telling? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara. Here Krishna is telling, remember me and do all your duties. Remembering me always, one who has dedicated his mind and understanding to me shall come to me alone undoubtedly. So Krishna has promised nothing to worry. Think of me always, do all the work. You need not go to the forest or somewhere and sit down and do always think and meditate. No, do all your work, but remember me. So if you think of me while working and doing any other thing, then you will come to me. You will reach me only. If you think of God, you will become God. So that is a saving factor. Don't be afraid hearing the life of Jadabharata. There is always, the Lord has given us so much of grace that any time of your life, you can come out of that bad patch of your life, negativity, and you can go forward. Nothing to worry. So now what happened? Consequently, in his next life, King Bharata entered the body of a deer. Although most living beings are unable to remember previous lives, due to his spiritual advancement, this Bharata, even in this animal body, could understand the cause of his taking such a birth. So now, as a deer, he has the body of the deer, but his soul inside, he has that Sukshma Sharira. He can understand, why did I get this body? I was a king, I gave up everything, I was thinking, meditating. Because at the time of death, I got attached to this deer. One small attachment, now I've got the body of a deer. So he had that. Though he had the body of a deer, due to his spiritual advancement, Bharata, even in that animal body, could understand the cause of his taking such a birth. Now he began to lament, what a fool I was. I have fallen from the path of self-realization. I gave up my kingdom, I gave up my family and all that luxuries and went to solitary place in the forest to meditate, where I always glorified the Lord of the universe. But due to my foolishness, I let my mind become attached to, of all the things, a deer. And now I have justly received such a body. No one is to blame but myself. So because the children have given you up, or you don't have wife, or you don't have children, or you don't have husband, what will they do? They will start developing another attachment, bringing some pets into the house and get attached to that pet. And then you'll be always thinking, when you give up the body in the next life, either you will become bow, 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 or meow, meow, meow. So you should be very, very careful. And what is the remedy? Even while serving all the people whom you are attached to, think you are serving God and do that, then that will not. So there is remedy always. Always think, suppose you are serving the dog instead of God, or cat, see the Lord in that animal or anything, people, then serve them, then you can come out of this problem. So now he's telling, I let my mind become attached to of all the things a deer, and now I have justly received such a body. No one is to be blamed but myself. Having learnt a valuable lesson, Bharata was able to continue his spiritual progress even as a deer. He once again became detached from all material desires. He had no longer cared for the succulent, the green grass. Now, all that, how long his antlers would grow. He gave up the company of all the deer there, left his mother deer in the Kalanjara mountains where he had been born. He returned to Pulaha Ashrama, where as the king he was meditating, where he had been now meditating earlier. So he had practiced meditation in his previous life. This time, however, Bharata was very careful not to ever forget the Supreme Lord, staying near the hermitage as a deer with the great saints. He avoided all material things and lived very simply, eating only hard, dry leaves. When the time of death came for that body of the deer, upon leaving the body of the deer, Bharata loudly uttered the prayer, O Lord, you are the source of all knowledge, the controller of the entire creation, and the super soul that is the Paramatman within the heart of every living being. You are beautiful and attractive. I'm quitting this body, offering my obeisance unto you, hoping that I may eternally engage in your devotional service. Now, because of the thought of the God, in his next life, this King Bharata took birth in a pure Brahmin's family, and again, by God's mercy, could remember his past lives. Then this time he was known as Jada Bharata. Why? Because he had the experience of all these two lives. Now he was very, very careful. He would not get into any activity so that he may get into attachment. Jada, he was just like a lifeless person. He became very much afraid of his family and friends as he grew up, since they were mostly materialistic people. And Jadabharata feared that their association, their sangha or satsanga, or whatever sangha might again propel him into lower species. Therefore, to avoid such contact, now Jadabharata in this life pretended to be dumb, deaf, and blind. Although he was extremely intelligent. Within himself, however, he would always fix his mind upon the Lord within his heart, thinking of the Atman or Paramatman. He acted as if he was dumb, deaf, and unintelligent. Though he was highly intelligent, he had the highest knowledge. Jadabharata's father was very affectionate towards his son and hoped that one day he would become a great scholar. He patiently tried to educate his son, But Jadabharata continued to act like a fool, hoping that his father would abandon his attempts. His father, however, continued to instruct his son till the day he died. That is, the father died. After the death of Bharata, Jadabharata's father, the boy's 9 stepbrothers, who considered him as a useless fool, abandoned all efforts to educate him and instead sent him to work like a slave in the agricultural fields. Jadabharata, however, did not protest against their mistreatment, for he was completely liberated from the bodily concept of life. He gladly accepted whatever little they gave him to eat or wear or drink, and never bore any grudge against anyone. He thus displayed symptoms of a perfectly self realized souls. He was not at all disturbed by any the bad treatment of any people. So he was living like that, always thinking of God. Whatever little he got in the form of food, he would eat. Whatever little cloth he had, he would wear. Not at all desirous of anything, thinking of God. One night, while this Jadabharata was sitting on a high ground, guarding the agricultural field against the attack of wild boars, a band of thieves searching for a dull, unintelligent human being so that they could carry their loot, caught sight of this Jadabharata, bound him with ropes. But they also, not only they wanted to take the loot, but also they wanted to sacrifice him to their goddess Kali. They wanted to take him to the temple of goddess Bhadrakali. Such sacrifices are certainly not endorsed by our scriptures, Vedas, but were conducted by these robbers for the purpose of gaining material wealth. Now, Jadabharata, because of his complete faith in God, and also he didn't have any body consciousness, he did not protest. He was not at all afraid of his losing his body or life, because he was not attached even to his body or life. He was just identifying himself with the Parabrahman, the Lord. The thieves now bathed him, dressed him in new silk garment, and decorated him with flower garlands and ornaments. Then they fed a sumptuous last meal before bringing him before the mother goddess Kali. Then one of the thieves, acting as the chief priest, took out a razor sharp sword in order to slit Jadabharata's throat so that his warm blood could be offered to Kali. Now, what happened? He's just smiling. He's not at all afraid of the death. That's what Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, achedyoyam adahyoyam. The sword cannot cut you. The fire cannot burn you. Water cannot wet you. You are the Atma Swarupa. You are Paramatma Swarupa. You are pure consciousness. Nothing can kill you. That's what Lord Krishna is told in the Bhagavad Gita. So he has identified with the Atman. He knows he is not the body, not at all afraid of death, even though they are about to kill him. Then what happened? They were about to kill him. Suddenly, because the goddess Kali couldn't tolerate this insult to a great saintly person, realized soul, suddenly she burst from the form of the deity, her body burning with intense and intolerable radiance. Leaping violently from the altar, she seized the sword with which the dacoits or the thieves were about to sacrifice Jadabharata to her, and she decapitated all the thieves and killed them and protected him. Now, Jadabharata, not at all concerned. After this escape from those thieves, all the thieves were killed. Jadabharata continued his wandering, remaining aloof from the ordinary materialistic men. One day, while he was going like this, one king, Rahugana of Sauvira, was being carried through the district. You know, in olden days, the soldiers or the people, the servants used to carry the kings in a palanquin. So this king was being carried in a palanquin. All those workers became fatigued. They were tired, realizing that they will need extra help in order to cross the river Ikshumati. The king's servant began searching for help. They soon stumbled across this Jadabharata. He was quite strong. He appeared good choice, for he was very young and built like an ox. However, the new man didn't perform his service very well. While carrying, when they pulled him to carry, they bet him and made him to carry the palanquin. He's a realized soul. What is that to him? Okay, I will carry. He did his work, will of the Lord. He was carrying. But he was not doing the work properly. Why? Pausing periodically to make sure that he didn't step on any creatures on the ground while walking. If the ant are going there, he will jump from there. He will not stamp. He doesn't want to kill anything because the Lord exists in everything. If there is a worm going on the street, he will go that side. So the person inside, the king is being disturbed. He jumps, he stops, he goes there because he's looking at the ground. If there are any worms or any animals or any creature, which should not, because he's seeing Atman in every living being. He cannot kill. So he's jumping, he's going this side, but inside the king is feeling the difficulty. Once he stops, there is a jerk. He jumps, there is a jerk. The king is getting angry and angry now. However, this new man didn't perform his service very well, pausing periodically to make sure that he didn't step on any ants. Unaware of what was causing the rough ride, this king, Rahugana, he became very angry. What's going on? Why does my palanquin keep shaking in this way? Hearing the threatening voice of the king, the servants quickly attributed blame to this newly employed fool, Jadabharata. The king angrily rebuked this Jadabharata sarcastically, calling him a weak, unintelligent, frail old man. Despite the king's tirade, we should remember once when Swami Vivekananda was lecturing in America, in the audience there was one British Army general who served in India. Somehow, because he served there as an army officer, he had hatred towards Indians. Now, in the midst of the lecture, he got up and started abusing and scolding Swami Vivekananda. For a long time, Swami Vivekananda was watching him and smiling at him. He scolded and scolded, abused and got tired. Then in a huff, he went away. So many Western disciples who were there, they came and told Swamiji, at least you could have protested. He was wrong. You didn't commit any mistake. He was just scolding you, abusing you. You could have protested at least. He told, I was in such a high state of mind. I identified with the Paramatman. I don't know who was scolding, who was being scolded, and whom should I protest back? I couldn't know the difference. I was in such a high state of mind. Who shall I scold? Who is scolding me? I couldn't know the difference at all. That was the high state. He was seeing Atman, Paramatman, the Lord. In even the scolder, that person is as if just like doing some, what do you call, just like Charlie Chaplin movie, there will be no sound, he will be making so many things. It was looking like that. Swamiji didn't give that example. I am giving that example because whom will I scold? Whom is he scolding? I am identified only with the Paramatman. I am seeing Paramatman in him. I'll give another example. There was one great saint, a Vishnu Bhakta. Later he became a Brahmagnani, but he was living like a madman. So one day there was a dustbin. They had thrown the food there. The dogs were eating. He was in such a high state of realization. He felt that the dog is also Vishnu. So he went, sat on the dog and started eating with the dog, that food, thrown food. Then the passerbys looked at it, madman sitting on the dog, eating with the dog. So they laughed and they started making fun of him and teasing him and taunting him. He started smiling at them and composed a special poetry in Sanskrit. What was the meaning of that? When Vishnu was sitting on Vishnu and eating Vishnu, another Vishnu looked at this Vishnu and started laughing. See the state of realization. When Vishnu was sitting on Vishnu, eating Vishnu, another Vishnu looked at this Vishnu and started laughing. So if you have this attitude, seeing God anywhere, where can you get animosity? Whom will you get angry? So, all this Lord Krishna will take you through in the Bhagavad Gita. As you go on studying, Lord Krishna will make you feel that in every living being, what is the guna, the quality of a bhakta, what is the quality of a gnani, everything he will take you through. By the time you finish Bhagavad Gita, you will start seeing God in every living being. That's the speciality. All the pain will vanish. You will not get angry with anyone. You will do your duty, will be normal everything, but you will become a great soul. That is the speciality of Bhagavad Gita. Now you see, the king is scolding him for no reason. Despite the king's tirade, Jadavarta remained unaffected. He understood his true spiritual identity, knowing that he was not the body, he was not the ego, but the eternal soul, Paramatman within. He therefore remained quiet and continued carrying the palanquin as before. Unable to control his temper, the king came out with his sword and threatened him. You rascal, what are you doing? Don't you know that I am your master? I am the king. For your disobedience, I will now punish you. Then Jadabharata replied, my dear son. Until then, he was not talking at all. He was acting like a dumb person, dumb, deaf, and blind. But now, first time he's talking. The realized soul is talking, my dear king, replied Jadabharata. Whatever you have said about me is true. You seem to think that I have not labored hard enough to carry this palanquin. That is true. Because actually, I am not carrying this palanquin. I am the Atman. I am not carrying this palanquin at all. My body is carrying it. But I am not the body. You accuse me of not being very stout and strong. I am feeble. But this merely shows your ignorance of the spirit soul, the Atman. The body may be fat or thin or weak or strong, but the soul is neither fat nor skinny. Now the king could, though the king was egoistic at that time, but they are highly educated and they have all the knowledge of the scriptures, could understand, oh, this fellow is a great soul, could understand. Then he begged pardon, fell at his feet. Jadabharata then began to instruct this fiery monarch. You think you are the Lord and the Master and you are the king, but therefore trying to command me. But this is also incorrect. Today you are a king and I am the servant, but in our next life, the roles may be reversed. I may be the master and you may be the servant. Last 2 lives back, I was the king. I was ruling. Now I am the servant. So it may reverse. Anything can happen. Roles may be reversed. I may be the master and you may be my servant. In any case, Jadabharata continued, who is the master? Who is the servant? Everyone is forced to act by the law of material nature. Therefore, no one is the master. No one is the servant. Now this king Rahugana, who had been previously educated in spiritual science, was astonished to hear the teachings of Jadabharata. Recognizing him as a saintly person and a realized soul, the king descended from the palanquin and fell humbly on the ground at his feet, with his head at the feet of the holy man. O saintly person, why are you moving through the world unknown to others, O spiritual master? I'm blind to spiritual knowledge. Please tell me how I may advance in spiritual life. Then Jadabharata replied, because the mind is full of material desire, the soul takes on different bodies to enjoy and suffer the pleasures and pains brought on by material activities. Jadabharata then revealed his own past lives. In a previous birth, I was known as Bharata, King Bharata. I was fully engaged in the service of the Lord until I became so lax in mind that I developed attachment towards that small deer and neglected my spiritual duties. And at the time of death, I could think of nothing but this deer. And so I had to accept a corresponding body in my next life. Jadabharata continued his teaching by informing the king that those who wish to escape the cycle of birth and death must constantly associate with pure and learned devotees of the Lord. After receiving lessons from the great devotee Jadabharata, King Rahugana became fully aware of the true position of the soul and gave up completely the bodily conception of life. So this is the story which comes in our scriptures about Jadabharata. Many times this example of attachment of Jadabharata is quoted. It's a great lesson for all of us. So whatever that might be about that first chapter, now we were dealing with some of the verses of the chapter. We will go into that. Last time we had completed up to the 9th verse of the first chapter. Today we will take up the 10th verse. What is the 10th verse of the first chapter? Aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam tvidame balam bhima virakshitam. So who is telling this to whom? This verse is told by Duryodhana. To whom? To the preceptor Dronacharya. So let us chant this verse, 10th verse. Aparyaptam tadasmakam Aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhima virakshitam. Sorry, balam bhishma virakshitam. Balam bhishma virakshitam. Balam bhishma virakshitam. Paryaptam tvidame tesham. Paryaptam tvidame tesham. Balam bhima virakshitam. Balam bhima virakshitam. Aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishma virakshitam. Paryaptam tvidame tesham balam bhima virakshitam. So what is the simple meaning of this? I think in future, because here we have less knowledge of Sanskrit. If you like, I can take up word by word and you can study Sanskrit also through the Bhagavad Gita. If you like, I will do that in future. But now let me not deviate. If you like, you can ask me, then I can take up all the thing one by one, the words, the meaning and the grammatical things in Sanskrit. I can take you through that. Now let us go to the simple meaning, where Duryodhana is telling, therefore, our army, there is a Kaurava army, protected by Bhishma, the grandsire, he's telling is insufficient, aparyaptam. On the other hand, the other army of the Pandavas, this army of the Pandavas, protected by Bhima. Bhima is almost equal to Duryodhana. Compared to Bhishmacharya and other people in the Kaurava army, Bhima is nothing. Bhishma is one of the strongest. He has even won the battle with Parashurama. He cannot be killed at all. Ichamranatva, he got that boon. He is telling the Kaurava army led by Bhishma is aparyaptam, insufficient. Whereas the Pandava army led by Bhima, protected by Bhima, is sufficient. So you may feel, what is this he's telling? On the other hand, this army of the Pandavas protected by Bhima is more than sufficient to defeat us. Now he went on enumerating first the great warriors in the Pandava army and also the great warriors in the Kaurava army. When you saw that, in the Kaurava army, the great valorous and strong people were more compared to the Pandavas. But in spite of that, why is he telling like this? What is his intention? He says that the Pandava Sainyam, Balam means the strength or the army, is superior, and the Kaurava Sainyam or army is inferior. This is his judgment indicating he is now tremendously frightened. He can clearly see the better warriors are with him, the best warriors. But still, he's telling it's insufficient. So what does it show? As I told you, every word of ours puts out our psychology, what is our mind. So he's frightened. And therefore he goes nearer to Drona and he says, Asmakam balam aparyaptam. Aparyaptam means insufficient. It is weaker, it is incapable of overpowering the Pandava army. Even though Bhishma Virakshitam, protected by Bhishma, even though most important warrior in our troop is Bhishma, and also we have so many great warriors other than Bhishma, but still he's telling our army is insufficient. Still I feel we are weaker. And not only that, that etesham balam paryaptam, that Pandava army is sufficient, powerful to overwhelm us, to defeat us. That also protected by Bhima. And he is the disciple of Drona. He is the great grandsire, child of Bhishma, was a great warrior. And Karuna is more powerful than him. Karuna had defeated Bhima also. All are on Pandava's side. Still is telling they are powerful. Why? So you can see the important thing is wherever adharma, unrighteousness is there, their fear will automatically come. You might have the best of everything. If you have earned that through unrighteousness, you will be always fearful. Because on the Pandava side, it is righteousness. Kaurava side, it is unrighteousness. When you have gained anything by unrighteous means, adharma, then fear will automatically come. That's why you can see he's the epitome of adharma. You know, once Krishna went to plead so that there should be no war. Let people be peaceful. He went and pleaded as an ambassador. He went to Kaurava's palace. Lord Krishna, Lord of the universe, he went to him. Let us not have war. Give what half kingdom which belongs to them. They were the rulers of the whole kingdom. But you took away, accept them. Okay, now at least give half the kingdom. No, I'm not going to give. Okay, let us now stop war. We don't want to kill each other. There'll be no war. Give at least 5 villages. And if I'll tell the Pandavas to keep quiet, ruling the 5 villages. Then what was the reply of Duryodhana? I will not give not only 5 villages, I will not give land worth 5 needles. Suppose you take 1 needle, how thin will be the needle tip? So I will not 5 villages, 5 needle tip of land also I'm not going to give. Or Krishna tried his level best. Why are you behaving like this? Why do you want to kill people? Krishna pleaded. Why are you taking the path of adharma? You know, what was the reply of Arjuna? Famous statement is there in the Mahabharata. Janami dharmyam. I know what is dharma because all the kings were trained in the scriptures. I know what is dharma. Nachame parvrittihi. I don't want to practice it. Janam adharmam. I know what is adharma, unrighteousness. Nachame nivrittihi. I don't want to give it up. It's a statement he told to Krishna. Famous statement in Mahabharata. Janami dharmam. I know what is dharma. I have read it, but I don't want to practice it. Janami adharmam. I know what is adharma, unrighteousness, but I don't want to give it up. So just watch our own life. We're also behaving like that. Why? Because of ego. We know what is right, what is wrong. We don't want to give up the unrighteousness. We don't want to do the righteousness. We go on procrastinating. And the result, you have to face the consequence. Duryodhana. So now you can see it here. That's why that fear we are going to lose. Therefore, what is happening? The Pandavas are having only 7 divisions of the army. He is having 11 division of the army with all the paraphernalias, the elephants, the camels, the ratha, the chariots, and the best of the warriors. But still he is afraid. He's telling they are stronger, we are weak. Therefore, quantitatively, numerically, Kaurava army is stronger. And not only quantitatively, even qualitatively, they are more powerful warriors in Kaurava's side. One Bhishma is enough to decimate the whole that army of the Pandavas. One Drona is enough to kill all the Pandavas and all the army. Because he's the teacher. He knows weakness of every warrior on the other side. He knows the weakness of Pandavas and all the other warriors. Therefore, one Drona can destroy the Pandava army. Similarly, Karuna is elder to the Pandavas. Karuna is also quite capable of destroying them. One person, Kripacharya, is also great. Ashwatthama is also a great warrior on the Kaurava side. All senior soldiers on the Kaurava side. But even though Kaurava army is superior quantitatively and qualitatively, Duryodhana's subjective feeling that they are weak. What do we come to know? Because where dharma, righteousness is lacking, where bhakti, devotion to the Lord is lacking, in such a place, inner confidence, inner strength will be lacking. Where dharma, righteousness is not there on the Duryodhana's side, because he was consistently violating righteousness, dharma, and therefore there is always a prick inside. The conscience is pricky. You're going to lose. Because all through your practice, adharma only. So adharma will bring in fear. You think the people who are committing all the sinful activities, adharma, and they're becoming rich and they will be happy. You think from outside so. You don't know how they will be suffering within. Duryodhana is the best example. Many people complain, oh, we are all righteous, we are good, and we don't get anything. We lose always. We are poor. We get always the trouble. And see those people, unrighteous people, those politicians, they are very happy. They get all the facilities. Duryodhana also has got all the facilities, everything. But see, inside that will be suffering and suffering and suffering. But whereas one who takes up righteousness will be always happy. Confidence will be there. You can see here, Duryodhana is the best example. Now, what is the important thing here? Whoever violates dharma, he might be materially richer. He can never have inner confidence and inner strength and the sense of mind. And secondly, Duryodhana was not at all a devotee. And he never understood the value of Ishvara Anugraha, God's grace. And that is why, you know the story of Mahabharata. Both Arjuna and Duryodhana went to Krishna's palace to ask for the army. Come, you have to come to fight on our side. I think you can tell that is the First World War. Because the whole of India and this thing, everything is getting divided on 2 sides, Kauravas and Pandavas. Now, Duryodhana and Arjuna, both of them went to Krishna to ask that you should come and fight on us, with us. Now, when they went, Krishna was taking rest, sleeping. Duryodhana is the epitome of ego and adharma. He went to Lord Krishna. He sat near the head of Krishna. Arjuna went and sat at the feet of Lord Krishna. Duryodhana, egoistic, he went and sat at the Lord is sleeping. He went and sat at the no devotion, no dharma. So no respect, sat at the head of Krishna, sleeping. Arjuna, humble, devotion. He went and sat at the feet of Krishna. What happened? When Krishna woke up, whom will you see first? You will not see who is near the head. See who is at the feet. He saw Arjuna. Where did you come? What do you want? Duryodhana is there, the king. He didn't ask him. Then he told, we have come to ask you to help us in the battle. It's going to happen, Kurukshetra. So then Krishna told, okay, since you have come first, I will give you the choice first. Duryodhana will get second. Duryodhana was angry now. He may ask the best what to do. He told, two things, two choices are there. One side, Krishna, without taking up any arms, he will not fight, but he will be on your side. Another is the whole army of Krishna. Another, two choices are there. You can choose whatever you want. The whole Narayana army, the best army of Yadavas and Balarama, everything is there on one side, and Krishna on another side, but he will not fight. Even though he is the best of the warriors, he is not going to fight. So what do you want to choose? Arjuna, choose. What did Arjuna choose? Lord, I want you. I don't want the army and the best of this thing. I want you. He chose Krishna. Duryodhana was very happy. So, oh, who will take up armless Krishna? Useless. He will not fight, it seems. He will not take up the arms. I will not choose him. Thank God now Arjuna chose Krishna. I will take the army. He took the army. What's the use? See. So that story again in the Mahabharata, it is there. Krishna himself, without any taking up the arm, and the army of Krishna. What is that symbolically? Krishna represents spiritual strength, dharma, righteousness, Ishvara, anugraha, God's grace, and Krishna's army represent the material strength. It is just like asking whether you want money or God's grace. Do you want property or God's grace? Ishvara, anugraha. Duryodhana chose the army instead of Lord Krishna. Arjuna was asked to choose, and Arjuna chose Lord Krishna. Duryodhana told him, what a fool are you? You had got the first chance, you have chosen Krishna who will not fight, useless fellow. But Arjuna knew the invisible strength of Ishvara Anugraha, God's grace, whereas Duryodhana voted for the concrete material strength. And a result of that, even though he had the best of the material strength, qualitatively, quantitatively, all that support, he didn't have the confidence. Whereas Pandavas were a picture of confidence from the beginning. So what is the lesson we have to learn from here in this shloka? If we require confidence and sense of security in our life, invariably, we have to choose God's grace and righteousness. And we can get rid of the sense of insecurity. We may, because now have that sense of insecurity, what will you do? You go on acquiring material things. So many things. The more material, the more gadgets you have, the more iPhone, the more iPad, the more TV, the more best big screen, LED screen TV, the more pain and problem you have. Has it solved your problem? It's increasing. But people, the saints will have none of this, but they have the God's grace and righteousness on their side. Without anything, they're so happy. So choose rightly. Mere acquisition of material wealth will not do. So all that Krishna will explain in the 9th chapter. Now we'll go to the next verse. What a wonderful, it has given us wonderful lesson by this Duryodhana's mistake. We'll go to the 11th verse. Ayaneshu cha sarveshu Ayaneshu cha sarveshu यथा भागमवस्थिताः यथा भागमवस्थिताः भीष्ममेवाभिरक्षन्तु भीष्ममेवाभिरक्षन्तु भवन्तः सर्व एव हि भवन्तः सर्व एव हि. Now Duryodhana is commanding all the great leaders of the Kaurava army. Therefore, I call upon all the generals of the Kaurava army now to give full support to our grandsire Bhishma, even as you defend your respective strategic points. Ayaneshu cha sarveshu yatha bhagam avasthitaha Bhishmam eva abhirakshantu bhavantaha sarva eva hi. He is commanding them. Does Bhishma require protection? He has got the boon that nobody can kill him, he can die only. Even death cannot come near him. He can choose death. But he is telling that sense of insecurity, telling all of you should protect Bhishma. Stationed at all points of entry as allocated, all of you indeed should closely protect Bhishma alone. If you have got the Lord in your heart, even though your possessions are minimum, you have a sense of security. Whereas if that Lord, that devotion is not there in your heart, you may have empires, you may have all the missiles, but you will not be secure. In fact, you go higher and higher in your position, the more security you need. You become a minister, you can't go freely walk on the road. You become the president, you can't come out to the street freely like any ordinary person. So much of security. So many times that security itself may be the cause of your insecurity. So what is the use of all the now President Biden, with his one press of the button, he can put so many nuclear bombs on the world and destroy it. But always he will be protected. Security, security, security. So the security guards themselves may be source of death. So from this, it is to be clear. There is a Sanskrit saying, what is that? Arakshitam daiva rakshitam. Surakshitam daiva hatam vinashyati. If God's grace is not there, if devotion is not there, whatever you possess, whatever people or material or money or anything cannot give you security. But if bhakti, devotion is there, and God is protecting you, then if you don't have anything to, you have all the security. That's the meaning of that verse, Sanskrit verse just now I told. What is that? Arakshitam daiva rakshitam, surakshitam daiva hatam vinashyati. And here Duryodhana is suffering from a sense of insecurity. And what do you do for that? He's saying, Asmakam bhalam aparyaptam. The Pandava, this thing is very great. Now all of you should go and protect Bhishma. Confusion, peculiar decisions you will be taking. So in that verse, you can see that. That is the simple meaning we have gone through. Now we'll go to the 12th verse and we will endeavor. I will give that simple meaning and other things, and then we will stop the conversation for today. We'll go to the 12th verse. Tasya sanjanayan harsham. Tasya sanjanayan harsham. Kuru vruddhah pitamahaha. Kuru vruddhah pitamahaha. Simhanadam vinadyochaihi. Simhanadam vinadyochaihi. Shankam dadmau pratapavan. Shankam dadmau pratapavan. Then when Duryodhana was getting confused and telling so many things in confusion, then the grand old sire of the Kuru dynasty, Bhishma, the glorious patriarch Bhishma, he roared like a lion and blew his conch shell very loudly, so that may bring enthusiasm to the heart of this Duryodhana, because he knew that he's losing confidence. The more if I keep quiet now, this fellow will lose his confidence and will be afraid and taking peculiar decisions. So he made a roar like a lion and he started blowing the conch. However, he understood the grand nephew's anxiety, that is Duryodhana's anxiety, and to cheer him up and to enthuse him, he blew his conch shell loudly. So in those days, blowing the conch shell in the battlefield signaled the start of the war, generating enthusiasm in Duryodhana, the powerful grandsire. The oldest among the Kurus sounded a lion roar and blew the conch. So now, until now, it was all Duryodhana was telling to Drona and all other people. But from this 12th verse, Duryodhana stopped talking. It is Sanjaya again is telling it to all the things in Dhritarashtra. In the beginning, we saw Sanjaya, who had the capacity to see what is happening in the battlefield, and also he could see what people are thinking. And so he's narrating the Vyasa Maharshi had given that power to him, spiritual power, yogic power. So he could see happening everything in the battlefield, and he's narrating. Now again, Sanjaya is telling all this happening on the battlefield to blind Dhritarashtra, the father of the Kauravas. Now again, Sanjaya Uvacha he is telling, continuing the narration in front of Dhritarashtra. So when Bhishma saw Duryodhana's pathetic condition, he understood Duryodhana has to be encouraged now, like children. Now, the children in your house, the young, when they go to the examination, they become nervous. So the parents have to enthuse them. They will take to the temple, they will take to this thing, they will do arati, give them arati, they will put the kumkum, the prasad, so that the children will get strength and moral courage, and they will go and face the examination nicely. So at that time, so much of devotion, they will take to Swamijis, they will take to ashrama, they will give the blessing. Until then, nowhere, they will not go to ashrama or Swamiji. During examination and other things, they will come, they want to take the blessing. And on the way, while going, whatever they get, they go and do pranam. The children you should see during the time of examination. Whatever tree they get, even donkeys, they will touch and do pranams. Why they are going to examination now? Whatever they see, they will be doing. So much of devotion. So likewise now, Bhishmacharya is giving him that, just like this, an examination for him, big examination. Bhishma understand the unseen factor, the importance of the situation. Therefore, tasya sanjanayan. So Bhishmacharya generated enthusiasm, inner strength and confidence in Duryodhana. So Kuru Vruddha Pitamaha. Both these words refer to adjective as Bhishmacharya. Kuru Vruddha means eldest among the Kauravas. Pitamaha means great grandfather. Most elderly person. And that Bhishma generated confidence in the heart of Duryodhana and other the Kaurava army. And how did he create the confidence? Uchchaihi simhanadam vinadya. So he roared like a lion. Like a lion, he roared aloud and made huge noise with his conch. So that brought the enthusiasm on the Kaurava side. So I think we will stop our conversation. So we have completed 12th verse. So we will take up the 13th verse in the next session. Any questions on what we have discussed today? Any doubts or any question of what we have discussed today? If you don't have any question or doubt, then we will conclude with the prayer. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande paramanandamadhavam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.